For joining me in this discussion. We'll leave it at that for now. Moving ahead now, viewers, Pakistan has entered into an agreement with a firm linked to World Liberty Financial, the primary crypto venture associated with US President Donald Trump's family, to explore the use of World Liberty stablecoin for cross-border payments. The deal represents one of the first publicly announced tie-ups between World Liberty, a crypto-based finance platform launched in September 2024, and a sovereign state. It also comes amid a warming of ties between Pakistan and the US. According to reports, under the agreement, WLF will collaborate with Pakistan's central bank to integrate its USD1 stablecoin into a regulated digital payments framework, enabled to function alongside Pakistan's existing digital currency infrastructure. All right, now moving ahead to news from India and US. India and the US have reviewed their bilateral engagement across trade, defense and energy sectors in a high-level phone call between External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and US Secretary of State Marco Rubio. During the conversation, the two leaders discussed trade negotiations, critical minerals, nuclear cooperation, defense ties and energy collaboration. The call came a day after the new US ambassador to India, Sergio Gore, assumed charge in New Delhi. Gore has indicated that both sides are discussing the next steps on bilateral engagement and that a possible meeting between senior leaders could take place next month. Earlier, the US envoy also announced that India would be invited to join Pax Silica, which is a US-led strategic initiative focused on securing critical supply chains linked to silicon and advanced manufacturing. I request Mitali Nikore to join me back in the discussion here. She's an economist from New Delhi. All right, thanks, Ms. Nikore, for continuing to stay with us in this discussion. All right. Yeah, how do you see the trade ties between the two nations now proceeding from here, and the questions of tariffs that continue to pose, a challenge, particularly for India?
So I think thanks a lot for having me on this story. So I think it's a very, critical time in geopolitics, and every conversation especially a conversation between a country and the US, and any of the ambassadors from the US or any of the representatives from the US is critical and redefines geopolitics in a way that, we didn't see yesterday. So each day is new, and I think this conversation is probably the start of a thawing of relations between India and the US, which is extremely critical at a time like this. I think the US recognizes that India, being one of the fastest growing economies in the world, is going to be one of the largest buyers of, oil, especially Venezuelan oil, and therefore it is in their best interest to continue working with India to build supply chains and to thaw the trade relationship. But at the same time, yesterday itself, the US imposed 25% tariffs on countries that do business with Iran. So therefore, the relationship still needs a lot of work. But I'm really glad that this conversation has happened between Minister Jaishankar and Mr. Marco Rubio.
Okay, how do you see the two nations cooperating on energy, because of the recent developments that we've seen in Venezuela, because of past precedents that have been set? India has continued to maintain that it will be importing from Russia as long as it provides cheaper oil and gas, which it does. Now with Trump having access to Venezuelan oil, of course he has excess of oil, including from countries like Canada, and US itself has exports in surplus. How do you think that conversation now could be different?
So actually, with the work that the U.S. government has done in Venezuela, with the fact that they are now looking at investing, and U.S. oil companies are looking at investing a huge fixed capital investment and setting up these facilities in Venezuela for actually refining the oil there. This is a long-term game from the U.S. This is a long-term move from the U.S. because in order to actually extract usable oil assets from Venezuela, it can take up to 5 to 7 years of investment from the US side. In such a scenario, it has to be, such that those purchases will happen. There will be revenue coming on the other side. If you're making investments of billions of dollars, you need to know that someone will actually purchase that oil. And India is one of the countries, being one of the largest buyers of oil, in the oil market. It places India in a very, good position to negotiate trade agreements, to negotiate any sort of deals with the US by guaranteeing that it will purchase oil from Venezuela, of course, as long as that meets our price requirements.
Okay, then. Thanks very much, Mr. Korea, for joining me in this discussion and helping us with your opinions. Viewers, we now move on. Now, Thailand's police have reported that emergency